weekend, I was introduced to the wonders of Pagliacci, a 37,000-year-old cave that holds evidence of being the most ancient prehistoric settlement in Asia and the largest naturally formed rock in the entire Asian continent. Needless to say, I was fascinated not just by the sheer size of the cave, but also the endemic fauna and flora around, the old shrine beautifully preserved in its original state, the giant sleeping Buddha, and a little further on, the gorgeous Kaleidoscope. I'll run through some of these sites during the show. So welcome to Kaleidoscope with me, Savithri Rodrigo, where today, on our People's Bank News Capsule, filmmaker Rehan Mudannayake tells us what it means to have his film Didi go to Hollywood. IFC's program lead of the Women in Work, Sarah Twigg. On Singer Life in 60, Shanthini Ahangama shows us her green fingers. And on Selling Life, Let's Talk, it's Shanika Amarasekera who was conferred an MBE in the Queen's birthday honours list. And since there's lots more, off we go.
Technology is key in moving forward to transform every challenging moment into a profit, where manual becomes digital, business becomes smart, and lives become smarter. People's Bank Online Corporate Banking. It's truly the change you need.
This is Kaleidoscope, a 10-meter waterfall looking very much like a bride's sheer white veil. It's quite close to Pagliacci, scenic but quite dangerous for bathing. And so on with our People's Bank News Capsule. Women own and operate about 250,000 SMEs in Sri Lanka. That's about a quarter of the total SMEs. While COVID-19 has impacted all businesses, an IFC study through the Women in Work partnership shows that women have been disproportionately impacted. Here's program lead of the Women in Work at IFC, Sarah Twigg.
What we found was that only around 1 out of 10 women business owners have borrowed money from a bank to support their business. This is around half the rate of male business owners. Instead, 1/3 of women business owners have actually borrowed money from friends or family, relying on these informal sources to support their business. But this can come with a cost. It can include increased control over their business by others, higher interest rates, and can also limit how much they can borrow. This can often be one of the reasons why women-owned businesses can struggle to grow. In response, the financial sector can and is helping by providing access to working capital and other types of loans. At IFC, we'll be working directly with the financial sector to ensure all businesses, particularly women-owned businesses, can access the business training that they need to ensure that they can be resilient and can weather the crisis ahead. This will ensure that businesses can not only bounce back better after the crisis, but that they're well positioned in the face of any future crisis.
Despite having a good run these last few weeks, the Colombo stock market too felt the impact of the pandemic while working remotely for most of the week due to lockdowns. This week, the indices moved down by 0.59% from last week, and the daily turnover was down to an average of 1.3 billion rupees. Oil prices also fell, with Brent falling below $40 a barrel. WTI crude oil was down to $37.33 per barrel. Spot gold remained unchanged at $1,877 per ounce. Oscar-nominated film director Deepa Mehta called it evocative and excellent. Sri Lanka's Rehan Mudannayake's short film Didi will have its world premiere screened as part of the 2020 Academy Award qualifying Holly Shorts Film Festival. An obviously elated Rehan, who also acted in Deepa Mehta's upcoming feature film Funny Boy, popped into our studio this week to talk about this great moment for Sri Lanka's film industry.
Gosh, I'm flattered, I'm thrilled, but most of all incredibly excited that my work is going to screen alongside movies by some of my favorite filmmakers like Yorgos Lanthimos and Jonathan Glazer.
Rehan, Sri Lanka's film industry has a long and skilled history when you look at it. But what is it that stops our industry from actually making it big in Hollywood?
One of the biggest challenges is proximity. But honestly, let this not be a deterrent to anybody who wishes to make films out here. Ultimately, if you create a powerful film, your work will travel and it will be noticed, it will be recognized.
Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "Speech is power, speech is to persuade, to convert, to compel." The Scenic Life Toastmasters Club, which has been accorded distinguished status since inception, has been the nucleus upon which the power of speech has been the secret formula for its team to succeed. Celebrating its 7th year, the club inducted 11 new members into its membership of 44, while also inducting 2 members into the Selinco Live Toastmasters Club Hall of Fame 2020. Along a 5-kilometer stretch of road in Sulaimania, an Iraqi Kurdish artist unveiled a stitched collage of clothes from women survivors of domestic violence. Using scraps of clothing donated by survivors aged 15 to 49, the artist sewed them together to create a giant, colorful patchwork. The Atlanta Opera's production of Pagliacci is back on stage, but this time there is no stage. It is being performed under a circus tent on a baseball field with scripts retrofitted for pandemic times, where the jealous clown Canio gets coronavirus. Performers sing and play instruments in plexiglass enclosures or wear masks, use FaceTime, have puppets for physical comedy, and the audience sits in 4-person socially distanced pods. Well, Halloween is here, the day that marked the end of summer and the beginning of the dark, cold winter. Pumpkins, of course, take pride of place, but COVID has its implications even on the traditional pumpkin picking, and farmers are hard-pressed to boost sales. So this farm in Hampshire that normally sells 60,000 pumpkins installed a giant mural made up of hundreds of individual pumpkins to attract customers. And that's our People's Bank News Capsule this week. Up next is Shanika Amarasekera MBE on Selinco Life. Let's talk.
With Selinco Life Pension Saver, Sri Lanka's premier retirement plan, start planning for your retirement today. Selinco Life, a relationship for life.
The Queen has honoured a Sri Lankan, and we are very proud. When the Queen's birthday honours list was announced this year, one of those among them was Sri Lankan Shanika Amarasekera, General Counsel to the board at the British Business Bank, who led the creation and launch of the Future Fund as part of the Chancellor's response to the COVID crisis. Her MBE is a reflection of her leadership in the Future Fund and other projects, being in the original management team launching British Business Bank, as a board member at Queen Elizabeth II's Olympic Park and London Stadium, balancing the integration of some of the poorest parts of London with the legacy of the Olympics, and starting a dialogue on gender and minority issues, for which she was recognised among the top 100 ethnic minority business leaders in the UK. This is among numerous other awards she has received. But here's the thing, Shanika is Sri Lankan through and through. Having schooled in Colombo, she went to the University of Colombo and Sri Lanka Law College, studied SEMA, worked at a radio station for a short time, and holds fast to her Sri Lankan attorney at law status. I caught up with her on a Zoom chat and asked her what this MBE means to her.
It's a real honour to be recognised in this way, and I'm genuinely delighted that the work I've been doing in the UK to support the economy and businesses is seen as being valuable.
Having gone to school and university here, Sri Lanka Law College, and even worked a little bit in broadcast journalism before moving on to England, has being Sri Lankan shaped the way you think and act, in fact the way you work?
Being Sri Lankan is very much part of my identity, and so the answer to that question has to be yes. I grew up in Sri Lanka, and my values and beliefs are heavily informed by what I learnt growing up in Sri Lanka. My core values are to be curious about and interested in everything around me, and learn from everything I see and experience. And this is something that I learnt while growing up in Sri Lanka and witnessing life around me while at school at St Bridget's Convent, at Law College, and at University in Colombo, and while working in journalism as well. And another core value for me is compassion. And again, this is heavily influenced by growing up in Sri Lanka and how society in Sri Lanka behaves, and embedding Buddhism and its principles in my life.
You've done considerable work breaking down barriers when it comes to ethnic minorities and gender issues. What tangible results in these areas have you seen due to the work you have done?
When I started life working in the UK at a law firm and then at an investment bank, I often used to find myself as the only woman in the room, and even more often as the only person from an ethnic minority background. And it was those experiences and seeing how decisions were being made by a very non-diverse group of people, largely a room full of middle-aged white men, that made me want to try and shift the dial on diversity issues and really make decision-making a more diverse process, because I truly believe that decision-making has to be done by people who are representative of the society that those decisions are going to affect. And that wasn't my experience of what was happening, and I thought it was really important to try and bridge that gap, and I wanted to do something about it. So I think it's really positive to see that at least the dialogue around diversity and including women and including ethnic minorities in the decision-making process and influencing the debate and the dialogue has now entered the mainstream. It's definitely a long way away from being a complete successful end result, but it's important that the conversation continues and that everyone continues to work towards a more inclusive society where decisions are being made by diversity of thought.
The Future Fund, starting off Britain's first domestic development bank, where you are now head counsellor, but would soon be head of strategy, policy and economics, balancing communities in and around the QE Park and London Stadium with the legacy of the Olympics, your work with ethnic minorities and gender issues, etc. What single most strength can you identify in yourself that led you to execute these projects successfully?
It's so easy, isn't it, to believe that the world is against you and that you will never succeed. But I've learnt that it's really important to stay positive, actually. And there just isn't any point in listening to negativity about how many different ways there are that you can fail at things. And I've always believed that anything is possible. And if you work hard and listen to people with an open mind, you can achieve many great things.
Has being Sri Lankan been an advantage or a disadvantage to you?
Firstly, I have to say that when I started off in life working, I don't think I often worried about whether I was starting off as being advantaged or disadvantaged by virtue of being Sri Lankan, because I think it's so key to being part of my identity, and my outlook tends to be one of positivity and optimism generally. I will admit, though, that on reflecting back, and even at the time, it was quite obvious to me that the world isn't a level playing field. And when I started off working in London, it was very clear to me that I was starting the race that we were about to start off in our careers and in life, several meters behind my colleagues and peers who were British and had grown up in the UK. But what I think I've done successfully is embraced being different and used that to my advantage to allow me to succeed. My stories of growing up in Sri Lanka and the experiences that I had are often more interesting than my colleagues who've grown up in the UK, and I've used those to my advantage. You've got to learn to turn your disadvantages into advantages, but while doing that, also not forget where you came from as you succeed in life, and really try and create a more level playing field for the future for others to follow.
What would you say to young Sri Lankans, those who sometimes feel that they don't have the skills or the knowledge or even the opportunity? How are they to move ahead?
Start from a position of positivity. If you believe in yourself, then anything truly is possible. But while doing that, don't be naive and assume that everything will always go your way. Build resilience. We all fail at things, but we can't be good at everything. And when you do fail, learn from those failures and don't let them hold you back. Pick yourself up and try again. We can't be good at everything, so learn what you're good at and play to your strengths. And probably lastly, but probably most importantly, seek out mentors and sponsors in life. There are plenty of people who will help you if you ask. And likewise, if people ask you for help, always try and accommodate it.
Positivity and optimism is Shanika's recipe for her achievements. And the underlying ethos in all she says is that once you have set your mind to something, go ahead and do it. Each step is a learning experience. Thank you, Shanika, for joining us from London on Selinco Life. Let's talk.
With Selinco Life Pension Saver, Sri Lanka's premier retirement plan, start planning for your retirement today. Selinco Life, a relationship for life.
We'll be back with Shanthini Ahangama, who shows off her green fingers. Artist Claude Monet said, "My garden is my most beautiful masterpiece." For Shanthini Ahangama, this holds true. Enjoy the passion she has for her plants, and maybe you can grow some green fingers too. Here's Shanthini on Singer Life in 60.
Kicking off with how you can beautify and maximize your outdoor space, the area chosen today is our backyard. This is our herb corner, conveniently perched and comes in handy when making soups, salads and sauces. Our row of potted lemongrass will hopefully keep mosquitoes at bay, as citronella oil is derived from lemongrass, they say. One could also transform a bare bowl such as this into an orchid haven. Our multi-patch bursting of vibrant shades consists of similar foliage clustered together to make a colourful impact, and is also low maintenance. A small water feature just completes the total effect. Moving across to our organic veggie planter on the roof level of our doggy's abode. Ideal space for growing chilies, eggplant, lady's finger. Be creative, start digging, good luck.
So just get down there and dig. The rewards are immense, as you can see. Thank you, Shanthini, for joining us on Singer Life in 60. So remember, I asked you last week whether Sri Lanka is ready for bicycle lanes. The majority of you said no, because the infrastructure is not yet in place and it is too hot. So write to us on kaleidoscopeweekly1@gmail.com or comment on our YouTube link and tell us what you think of our programs. If you like to see our past Let's Talk, Life in 60 or news capsule clips, they're all on our playlists on our YouTube channel. And do click on the subscribe button on our YouTube channel, Kaleidoscope with Savithri Rodrigo, and press the bell icon to remain updated. It's Halloween week, the time for ghosts and monsters. But with a real-life monster, COVID-19, trolling us, remember, wear your mask, wash your hands, and stay home as much as you can. Now, here's your Kaleidoscope takeaway. Even the darkest night will end and the sun will rise.